Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back. This is Madam 81. I am coming to you today with its article from ABC News, and it basically says, the headline basically says, Trump won't back down on Central Park Jogger case. And when they say Central Park Jogger case, if you're not familiar, there was a Netflix series that was done, very well done, may I add, about the Central Park 5. I'm pretty sure everybody by now is familiar with it and they have watched it. It is a very powerful four-part series, I believe. And if you have not checked that out, I would advise that you would. And this is basically Trump still claiming that the prosecutor, Feinstein, and the police did nothing wrong. He had took out a here is
April. To apologize to Central Park 5. They've been exonerated. There have been videos shown about the case. Came out with so many that saying that they did not.
Why do you bring that question up now? It's an interesting time to bring it up. You have people on both sides of that. They admitted their guilt. If you look at Linda Fairstein and if you look at some of the prosecutors, they think that the city should never have settled that case. So we'll leave it at that.
okay, and there you have it. He still refuses to admit his wrongs. In many senses, I will say this before I give my closing statements about it. He is a coward, nevertheless. Always have been, always will be. But the article starts by saying a new Netflix series has reignited the debate surrounding the Central Park Jogger case, with the outcry centering around the key figures, including former prosecutor Linda Fairstein and Donald Trump. I refuse to call him president. He is not my president. I'm going to let that be known off top. He's just a figurehead puppet of the free world, basically. Donald Trump, who inserted himself into the case early on, and when asked about it again on Tuesday, Trump maintained his position. When asked by a reporter on Tuesday whether he would apologize to the men who were exonerated in the Central Park Jogger case, Trump refused. Why do you bring that question up now? It's an interesting time to bring it up. You have people on both sides of that, he said while speaking on the White House lawn. They admitted their guilt. If you look at Linda Fairstein and you look at some of the prosecutors, they think that the city should have never settled that case, so we'll just leave it at that. A fitting statement for a coward. Jonathan Moore, an attorney who represented 4 of the 5, Yosim Salam, Anton McClay, Kevin Richardson, and Raymond Santana, since 2003, pushed back against Trump's comments in a phone interview with ABC News on Tuesday, saying there are not two sides to what happened to the Central Park 5. Trump's rush to judgment contributed to the lynch mob mentality that resulted in these 5 men being unlawfully incarcerated, and if nothing else, he should apologize for that, he added. When They See Us, which is the title of the Netflix series, um, and it says, which is directed by Ava DuVernay, is a dramatized account based on the 1989 case of injustice and racial discrimination in New York City, when 5 teenagers, 4 of them black and 1 Latino, were wrongfully convicted in the rape in the attack and rape of a white jogger in Central Park. According to the Los Angeles Times, DuVernay said of the president's response, "It's expected. There is nothing he says or does in relation to this case or the lives of black people or people of color that has any weight to it. It's not our reality. There is no truth to it," she continued. The series comes on the heels of the 2020 special, One Night in Central Park. To shake off. First Remain. Trump was a high-profile real estate mogul in New York City, already publicly Trump took out a full-page ad to air his grievances. It had framed took out the news paper, essentially put the target like basically called for a public baseball execution lynching. On it says on December 19, 2008, meets at the Supreme Court and Councilman Bill Perkins advertised Trump article goes on to say that the letter published in the ad in four area papers, one being the New York Times, another being the Daily News, another one being the New York Post, and the New York Newsday, was signed by Trump and ran as the teenagers awaited their trial. It called for the return of the death penalty for violent crimes, a move that attorneys for the boys said helped rally the public against them. Bring back the death penalty. Bring back our police, the ad read in all caps. Moore told ABC News on Tuesday that Trump's ad was designed to influence the population of NYC against these five young men and fueled it in an overwhelming amount of animus directed at them. Who has the money to buy a full-page ad in all major newspapers and proclaim not only that these kids are guilty, but that they should get the death penalty and that they should be it should be a death penalty for juveniles, Moore said, adding, it's not surprising that those jurors convicted them because they were already convicted in the press well before the case went to trial. The ad, which was written in the form of a letter and signed by Donald Trump, laments bands of wild criminals and crazed misfits, dismisses the notion of police brutality, and ends with a call to action that is not unlikely candidate Trump and President's rhetoric on law and order. His statement says, I want to hate these murderers, and I always will. I am not looking for, I'm not going to pronounce that, or understand them. I am looking to punish them. I no longer want to understand their anger. I want them to understand our anger. I want them to be afraid, he wrote in the ad. Amidst criticism that his ad was inciting violence, Trump took to the national airways to discuss the Central Park Jogger case and defend his ad in a 1989 interview with CNN's Larry King, saying he asked about the boys by a reporter and responded, of course I hate these people. Let's all hate these people, because maybe hate is what we need if we're going to get something done. End quote. As Trump, because I will never consider him as my president, he is not a legitimate president, seemed to encourage the police to be more violent in the handling of potential offenders during a speech to law enforcement officers back in July of 2017, which was not that long ago. He said, and quote, when you see these thugs being thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, you just seen them thrown in rough, I said, Please don't be too nice, he said, end quote. Four of the teenagers testified that they were coerced into confessing. Prosecutor Elizabeth Lansdowne was in the room with the teens during the infamous confession. Salam never confessed. All were convicted in 1990 of various crimes, including rape. McClay, Richardson, Santana, and Salam got 4 to 10 years in prison as juveniles. Wise was sentenced to 5 to 15 as an adult. Trump won't back down. And here's the pattern and lineup of how delusional and wrong he is and continues to sit in his lies and in his wrongness. In 2002, when Reyes came forward to say that he was the man, say that he was Melee's sole attacker, 4 of the 5 accusers were out of prison. Reyes, who was serving 33 years to life for the murder-rape conviction, reached out to the police, who were able to match his DNA to the DNA at the Central Park crime scene. District Attorney Robert, I'm not going to butcher his last name, withdrew all charges against the men and their convictions were vacated. Wise, who was still in prison at the time, was released early. The police also commissioned a report for Michael Armstrong, who was hired in 2002, to look into how law enforcement had investigated the Central Park case. Police, the prosecutor, and Melee said that nearly 20 years since the charges were vacated. Trump has repeatedly stated that he still thinks he has also weighed in on the case several times. One-sided. Trump tweeted April 2017 about the documentary by Sarah Burns and directed by she and her father, Tim Burns. And crafting the documentary, Burns didn't motivate the police because they were under a gag order. And was the city of New York in 2014, Trump expressed his displeasure. I bet the millions of the Central Park 5 will never get the stupidity of the NYC when there was such a explicit that the prosecution mainly authorities objected to the city's decision to settle. He also talked about the same newspaper in which he took power. The 1989 ad Trump claimed a tweet that the newspaper asked me to do an editorial on the Central Park and then they pretended it was my idea, news and newspaper. During the 2016 campaign for president, Trump began repeating the claim that the Central Park 5 were guilty, telling CNN at the time they need to get there need to be proof. The police believe the official investigation response to Trump's comments, Salam penned a viral op-ed in the Washington Post with the title, "I am one of the Central Park Five. Donald Trump won't leave me alone," which is basically harassment. Basically. Reflecting on the police brutality in the age of the Black Lives Matter movement in a piece, Salam wrote that Trump's comments on the Central Park case is further proof of Trump's bias, racism, and inability to admit that he's wrong. During our trial, it seemed like every New Yorker had an opinion, but no one took it further than Trump, Salam wrote. He called for blood in the most public way possible. I don't know why the future Republican nominee brought those ads, but it seems part and parcel with his racist attitude. ABC News, the contributors for this was Susan Welch, Karen Schiffman, and Julie Francis. They contributed to this report. Editor's notes: the story has been updated to reflect President Trump's June 18th comments about the case. Basically, I'ma just say this. He is garbage, he is trash. He is not my president, he is not a legitimate president. Some people get president based off of merit and actual proof of leadership. Some people get it as a graduation present from Harvard or Yale. This is a man whose father was a slumlord and a pimp. That's one of the ways he made his money. This is the same man who has led a campaign against refugees fleeing from their country to find a better life for their family. But his wife is an immigrant, and he got his wife's family papers so they can be American citizens. And it didn't even take that long for them to do that. He is trash. He is garbage. He is a waste of skin. He is a waste of precious air and resources. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I like this man. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I agree with him in any slight. And side note, anyone, and this is my opinion, and I have the right to say this, anyone that voted for this asshole but said, oh, I don't agree with everything he says, but he does have some valid points, you also are a waste of air and skin. You can't hide racism in 2019. Not when you have a wealth of free knowledge upon you at the tip of your fingers. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But nevertheless, DNA exonerated the Central Park Five along with the confession. And that's what a lot of people forgot, or not acknowledging that DNA exonerated them, essentially, along with the confession. I will be doing a video on Mr. Reyes. That's going to be my follow-up video to this. And I would love to hear your comments. Good, bad, negative, positive. I don't care. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you feel about this. I kind of have the same feelings as the producer and the maker of When They See Us. This is something that's not new. It's a lot of depraved, sick people in this world that feels the same exact way that Trump does. I have no sympathy for these people. I'm not going to try to understand these people because ignorance is taught. Get your education and your knowledge while it's free. Pretty much. So, with that being said, I am Madam 81, and I would love to hear from you. Please drop down, like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you guys